Joining us now from his home in Silver Spring, Maryland, is Redskins beat writer Mark Maske via Skype. Mark, welcome back to Post Sports Live.
Thanks for having me back.
All right, Mark, lots to talk about, obviously, that's going on out in Ashburn. At this point, it seems clear that Shanahan does not intend on resigning. Is there any reason to expect movement or a coaching change before the end of the season?
I wouldn't think so. I mean, Mike Shanahan was never going to resign. I mean, if you're among those people who believe that this is sort of a stare down now between Mike Shanahan and Dan Snyder over money, well, Mike Shanahan resigning means that he gives up his right to the money's over the rest of his contract, $7 million for next season. So that was never really in play. You know, if you do subscribe to that theory, if you think it's sort of a stare down now, there's really no reason for either one of them to blink before the end of the season. You know, there were sort of some pressure points earlier where maybe Dan Snyder would have taken action, after that Kansas City game, where you had the report that came out about Mike Shanahan considering resigning after last season. That was inflammatory. Where you had the potential quarterback change. That was potentially inflammatory. But he didn't act at any of those pressure points. And so at this point now, you wouldn't really see any reason why there would be any action taken on either side before the end of the season.
Can you see a scenario, Mark, in which Shanahan stays, but there's still a coaching overhaul where all the coordinators are gone? Hazlitt, his son Kyle, the special teams coordinator Burns. Can you see a scenario, is that even plausible in your mind, where Shanahan stays but the coaching staff is gutted?
You know, I think it's a long shot, but I think you certainly can see the scenario happen. You know, start with step one of that, Mike Shanahan staying. Now, sort of the scenario we were just talking about, this stare down between Shanahan and Snyder over the finances of this. If you're a subscriber to that theory of what's going on here, well, what if these two guys remain stubborn? And what if neither side is willing to budge? What if Dan Snyder is not willing to fire Mike Shanahan and pay him for next season? What if Mike Shanahan remains unwilling to resign and give up that money? Well, what's going to force them to a settlement? If they remain stubborn, if both sides remain unwilling to budge, yeah, you could see sort of a long shot possibility of Shanahan coming back. Now, if he actually wants an extension, you know, that comes with some concessions on the coaching staff. The coaching staff is totally under Mike Shanahan's control by contract. But maybe, you know, both Shanahans, Mike and Kyle Shanahan, at this point might see some benefit to working separately. We've seen the struggles on the defense. We've seen the extreme struggles of the special teams. So maybe Mike Shanahan, in that long shot possibility that he does come back, is open and receptive to changes on his coaching staff.
All right, let's switch our focus now to the quarterback situation. And in his news conference this week, Shanahan mentioned how competition is good at the quarterback position. Cousins had a solid game in Atlanta, showed that he can run an NFL-style offense. Can these two coexist next season?
You know, I think it would be very difficult. That exchange that you brought up was sort of an interesting exchange. Mike Shanahan kind of wanted to have it both ways. He wanted to say that Robert Griffin is the starter, but you want legitimate competition at every position. So which is it? The ideal scenario, whether Mike Shanahan is the coach or not the coach, for either him or whoever follows him as the coach, the ideal scenario is that Kirk Cousins plays well enough, that his value is enough, that the Redskins can get what they want. And Mike Shanahan has put out this idea of a first-round draft pick for Kirk Cousins. I don't see how that's realistic when you're talking about a guy who was a fourth-round draft pick and will have had at most 4 career NFL starts under his belt by the time you get around to shopping him around. So I'm not sure it's a first-round pick, but if the Redskins can get a second-round pick, if they can get a package that they like, then the ideal scenario is to trade him, you know, sort of restock, rebuild around Robert Griffin, and hope he goes back to being the player he was last season as a rookie. So I think it becomes a very tricky situation if both quarterbacks are here, no matter who the coach is.
Thank you for your points, Mark. We got to wrap up. I appreciate your time this morning, and we'll catch up with you later in the season. I know you got a lot on your plate, so appreciate your time.
Yep, thanks.